When I accidentally walked in on my stepson, I didn't expect that moment to change the way I saw him, or myself, forever. It was a quiet Sunday afternoon in late October in our little town in upstate New York. The streets were lined with pumpkins, neighbors were hanging Halloween decorations, and the air had that crisp smell of fallen leaves and distant fireplaces. Our home sat on a quiet street with big oak trees shading the yard. It wasn't a mansion or anything fancy, but it was ours, filled with the warmth of family dinners, laughter, and the occasional storm of disagreements. My name is Emily, and 3 years ago I married James, a kind man with steady blue eyes and a heart bigger than his words ever revealed. He had a son, Nathan, who was 18 at the time. Now, Nathan was 21, living under our roof while trying to figure out what direction his life was supposed to take. Being a stepmother hadn't been easy. I never wanted to replace Nathan's mom, who had passed away when he was just 12. Her absence left a hole in his heart, and though I tried to be gentle, I knew he carried the kind of grief that doesn't vanish. It just lingers, reshaping itself into quiet moments, heavy silences, and an independence that sometimes bordered on stubbornness. That afternoon, James had gone to the hardware store, and I was tidying up the house. I had a basket of laundry balanced on my hip and a glass of sweet tea waiting for me on the kitchen counter when I noticed Nathan's door was slightly ajar. I had a habit of dropping fresh clothes on his desk chair because his hamper always overflowed. I didn't think twice when I pushed the door open. What I walked in on stopped me in my tracks. Nathan wasn't doing anything inappropriate in the usual sense of the word. Instead, he was sitting cross-legged on his bed, holding an old photo album. His eyes were red, his hand brushing over a picture of him and his mom, and tears slid silently down his cheeks. The sight of this tall young man, who so often carried himself with a mix of bravado and silence, looking so heartbreakingly small and vulnerable, shook me. "Oh, Nathan, I'm sorry," I whispered, instinctively stepping back. He looked up at me, startled at first, but then something in his expression softened. He didn't close the album, didn't try to hide his tears. Instead, his voice cracked as he said, "It's fine. You don't have to leave." I walked in slowly, setting the basket down on the floor. I sat on the edge of his desk chair, unsure if I should say anything. The room smelled faintly of laundry detergent and the pizza he'd reheated the night before. His posters, old rock bands, and a couple of sports teams still covered the walls, a reminder that he was caught between boyhood and manhood. "You miss her a lot today," I said gently. He nodded, wiping his cheek with the back of his hand. "I don't know why it hit me so hard today. I feel like she should be here, you know? To see me grow up. To see what I've become. But she's not." My chest tightened. "It makes sense you feel that way. Grief doesn't follow a schedule. It shows up whenever it wants, especially when you least expect it." He looked at me, really looked at me, as if trying to gauge if I understood. "Do you ever feel like you're just lost? Like everyone else has it figured out, and you're the only one stuck?" I let out a slow breath. "More times than I can count. Even now, at my age, I don't always feel like I've figured it out. Life doesn't come with a neat little map. We stumble, we second-guess ourselves, and we keep moving anyway." Nathan's shoulders slumped, his voice dropping to almost a whisper. "I dropped out of college, Emily. I work part-time at the gas station, and I don't know what I'm doing. Dad doesn't say anything, but I can feel his disappointment. I feel like I've failed him. And Mom, I wonder if she'd be ashamed of me too." Tears stung my own eyes as I shook my head.
"No.
She wouldn't be ashamed.
She'd see you. The real you.
A young man with a good heart, someone who's just trying to find his way. And your dad? He's not disappointed. He just doesn't always know how to say the right words. But believe me when I say, he's proud of you." Nathan let out a bitter laugh. "Proud of what? That I can't stick to anything? That I have no plan?" I leaned closer, lowering my voice. "Proud that despite the weight you carry, you're still standing. That you're kind to people. That you keep trying, even when it feels like the world expects you to have it all figured out. That's what matters." He closed the photo album slowly, pressing his palm against the cover like he was sealing away a piece of his heart. Then he whispered, "Sometimes I just wish she could tell me herself." That broke me. Without thinking, I moved to sit beside him on the bed and wrapped my arm around his shoulders. For a moment he stiffened, but then he leaned into me, his head dropping onto my shoulder. He was taller than me, stronger than me, but right then, he was just a son who needed comfort. "I can't ever be her," I said softly, stroking his hair like I imagined his mom once did. "But I can tell you this. She loved you with everything she had. And nothing you do, nothing you struggle with, will ever change that. She'd want you to keep living, keep trying, even when it feels hard." His body shook with quiet sobs, and I held him until he calmed. When James came home later, we were in the kitchen, heating leftover chili on the stove. Nathan's eyes were still red, but his face was lighter, softer somehow. James glanced at me with a questioning look, but I only smiled faintly. "We were just talking," I said. That night, after Nathan had gone to bed, I told James what had happened. He sat back in his chair, his eyes glistening as he listened. "I thought giving him space was the best thing," he admitted, his voice low. "But maybe I've been too quiet. Maybe he needed me to talk, to actually tell him I'm proud of him." "You still can," I said gently. "It's not too late." The next morning, James took Nathan out to breakfast at the diner on Main Street, the one with the red vinyl booths and waitresses who knew your order before you sat down. When they came back, I could see something had shifted. Nathan smiled more easily, and James walked a little taller, like he had finally unburdened himself of words he had kept locked away. Over the weeks that followed, Nathan began to open up more. He started talking about his love for drawing, something he had kept to himself since high school. One evening, he showed us sketches he had hidden in his closet, detailed portraits, landscapes, even little comics that revealed his humor and imagination. James was stunned. "Son, you've got real talent," he said, pride filling his voice. It was the first time I saw Nathan truly believe it. He decided to enroll in community college part-time, taking courses in graphic design. It wasn't a complete plan, but it was a step, and that was enough. Slowly, he stopped comparing himself to everyone else and started focusing on what brought him joy. And as for our family, something beautiful happened. The walls that had once separated us crumbled a little more each day. We started having family dinners where conversations flowed more easily. We went to Friday night football games, cheering for the local team under the bright stadium lights, drinking hot cocoa, and laughing together.